Dajon Ferrell is a resiliency coach and speaker with a passion for helping people live their best lives their best lives in each moment. Her 13-year military career led her to her current journey of teaching other veterans, and she will soon be working with fellow soul-centered light workers and changemakers after finding a common thread of determined souls committed to service. She has taught for the Department of Veterans Affairs and spoken at conferences for entrepreneurs and veterans. Her voice has also been featured in the Huffington Post, along with being a published author of Invisible Thread and 365 Days of Angel Prayers. And just so you all know, this is the story I mentioned that does have a mention of sexual assault. Thank you, Dajon, for being here. Welcome to the stage, Dajon Ferrell.
I've told this story a lot, not in front of such a beautiful audience. It's usually in front of military people. And in that case, I feel like there's this wall that comes up. Sorry, this is ad lib, so sorry, Sally. But there's this wall that comes up because that's what the military teaches you. You know, there's just this robotic feel to the military, but being in this room, I'm an empath, I'm sensitive to energy, and I can just feel the love, but I can also feel the stirrings of an uprising of people that are tired of being pissed off and just want to get shit done. So yeah. So as I was sitting there preparing to come up, all of this emotion came up, and I was like, fuck, I'm gonna fuck it up. But here I am. So, my name is Dajon, and I have a question for you to ponder. What does a disabled veteran look like to you? Do they have visible injuries? Do they get around in a wheelchair? Are they homeless? Older? White? Male? Do they wear a hat with a bunch of ribbons on it? What if I told you I'm a disabled veteran with 13 years of military service? Many people reply with, "What happened to you? You look fine." It's always awkward. When I tell them the labels that the VA gave me, they either end the conversation abruptly or look at me with eyes of pity. It all started when I was 19 years old and seeking adventure. I wanted to be a part of something bigger than myself. My mother raised me to believe I could be anything I wanted to be. And where does one go to be all you can be? The Army, or so I thought. My mother was a tree hugger, a shamanic practitioner, and an energy worker. We legit couldn't play with water guns because they were too violent. No joke. And I actually grew up hugging trees, talking to animals, and sitting in circles with my family, learning about the chakras. When I joined the Army, she wasn't filled with pride so much, but more concerned about me becoming a slave to the man. Despite her objections, I shipped out to basic training in July of 2002. I think my family had bets on whether or not I'd make it through or not. I actually did quite well, though. There were still a few little hiccups. The first time I had to fire a weapon, for example, I sat in the foxhole with tears streaming down my face as the drill sergeant yelled, "God damn it, Private, aim center mass and fire." But drill sergeant, that's the heart chakra. That was awkward. He was not a fan. There was another time we were digging foxholes and there was this huge tree root that I ran into. I refused to cut through this tree root. Once again, my drill sergeant came over. "God damn it, Private Ferrell." He made me sit in that foxhole, guarding the perimeter for hours and hours. But the tree still lives, so I feel like I won. I finally found a good groove in the military. I didn't totally fit in, but I became known as the unicorn in uniform. I liked the visual of being like this badass unicorn ninja. I thought I would make a career for myself in the Army. I really felt like a sense of purpose. I ended up becoming a photojournalist. This one time, I was riding in a Black Hawk, taking photos of some flooding up in northern Minnesota. I was about 8 months pregnant and feeling sick, but I was sitting with all these generals and this FEMA director. My ninja side kicked in. As I picked up my travel coffee mug, I threw up in it, put the lid back on, and I kept filming. I mean, I think back to that moment, it was funny, but the real reason I did that is because I didn't want to appear weaker. I didn't want to look like I wasn't a true soldier because, oh, look, she's pregnant, she can't get the job done. I loved the travel, and I loved being part of a team with a purpose. There was this one mission. I was sent to Croatia for a 2-week training exercise. Easy peasy. My job as a journalist meant that I attended the VIP dinners, and I got meetings, or I was part of the meetings, and I would get coverage and send that back to the US. I was married at the time, and I had a 1-year-old son, so this mission was really exciting because it got me away from diaper changing and the monotony of motherhood, right? I was like, yeah, I get to go back into badass mode. Without going into too much detail, I was sexually assaulted during that training exercise by a Croatian general. For those that don't have military experience, generals are the top. And in a country like Croatia, they're fucking war heroes over there. They're like political figures. I came home, and my husband said I must have done something to make him think it was okay to do that. He's now my ex-husband. I didn't want to speak up about it because I knew I would be viewed differently. I was told I would be messing with an international military partnership. I spoke up, and he was released from the military. He retired early. I thought life would go on. I would attend therapy. I'd get back up and continue my career. I wanted to be that soldier again. I kind of wanted the spotlight to be off of me. But then another incident happened with the supervisor. This guy had a lot of family in my unit. Many of his family were leaders with a lot of rank. They threatened me by saying I could take a demotion or lose my job. At this time, I was a single mother. I was making pretty decent money at this job. I was scared to speak up. So I stood in a room in front of 4 men, accusing me of things that weren't true. In the military, they make you stand at the position of attention. You're okay, baby. So you stand there like this. And this panel of 4 men sat and just said things like, you don't think he's gonna leave his wife for you, do you? And don't you have a boyfriend? I mean, this guy wasn't even somebody that I would even pay attention to, but in that moment, they made me feel like I was chasing after him or something, and the tears just rolled down my face, but I took it because I wanted to be like, I'm strong, I can do this. I didn't want to give them anything to use against me. They told me I could earn my rank back if I went 3 months without any issues, and I believed them. I tried playing the game. I smiled when they sat me down to counsel me and said, you're not smiling enough. People are complaining. I did extra duty. I just wanted everything to be back to normal. That woman on a mission with her team and purpose, I just wanted to feel like that unicorn ninja again. One night, I couldn't bear it anymore. I thought my son was better off without me. I had become a shell of myself and decided to take all the pills that the VA gave me in an attempt to end it all. Once I realized I was still alive, I decided to fight back. This meant submitting a complaint, which led to an investigation. During this investigation, my leadership had me sit in a building down the road for 2 months. I reported daily to a desk and a chair. It felt kind of funny at that time because all of a sudden, my purpose was stripped from me. And now this uniform that I used to put on with pride felt like a prison. In the end of the investigation, I was given an apology by the state adjutant general, and 4 people were removed from their positions. For those that have military experience, it was a colonel, a command sergeant major, and 2 sergeants major. Although there was vindication, I knew I would never have a successful career while the regime of good old boys was still alive. I chose to get out after 13 years of service. I chose my healing. I chose myself. I'm now working to build a career around helping others choose meditation over medication. I've come back to my roots that my shamanic practitioner mother would be proud of with holistic healing. Yes. And now I can see that the unicorn ninja was always within me.